Hey guys, it's Sarah with Warming Up with Sincerely Sarah. Today I'm joined by the lovely Hannah Hall. So thrilled that she's willing to join us today. And we are matchy, totally not planned, but who doesn't love a good cheetah or leopard print? I
Right?
love it. I'm just going to go ahead and get started right off the bat. So Hannah is a superstar director with Scentsy Fragrance Company. And Hannah, before we get started, I just want to let you know that I will add the link to the income disclosure in the bottom in the comments of this chat so that way we are covered. So Hannah, please tell us how you got started with Scentsy and when you started.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for having me.
Of course.
Um, so hello everybody. I fell in love with Scentsy when I was actually teaching first and second grade. I am a teacher at heart and I love teaching littles. So I was in my first year of teaching at a small private school in Illinois. And one of my students' moms had just joined Scentsy, and I had never heard about it before. And we were actually doing a fundraiser at our school. And we handed all the packets out. There was like this what are you going to call it? Like a challenge to see who could sell the most, right? For the fundraiser.
Mhm.
And if anybody knows me, I am not one to step away from a challenge. And so I was like, if my kids are going to do this, I'm going to do this too as well. And so I took part in the fundraiser too as well. And like take this to heart, but like I wanted to beat my kids. I was like, these little kids are not going to outsell me.
Mhm.
And so I did. I outsold them in the fundraiser, and I think the top prize was a Nintendo Wii. So
Mhm.
it was fun to do that, and that was my first introduction into Scentsy. And I went to this mom's launch party too as well, and picked up a couple warmers. Got one for myself and one for my mom for Christmas, and just really fell in love with it. I have always loved scent. Back in the day when I was single before I was married, I loved the Yankee Candle, the black one, the mist, like smelled like a man's cologne. And I was always like, oh, God's going to bring me some man that smells like this. And so I just have always loved scent. And so that was my first introduction into it. And the story kind of goes where I then got pregnant with my first daughter a year and a half, maybe into teaching. And I always knew that God wanted me to be a stay at home mom. Like that was just always on my heart, even though I loved teaching and I loved going and just spending that time and investing in those kids. Like I wanted to do that at home for my kids.
Mhm.
And my husband is also a teacher. He teaches high school government. God bless his soul, right? Like
Oh,
I
I
just
know my husband teaches high school math, so.
I just love the little kids. I can't do high schoolers, but he can. And so I just knew that God wanted me to be a stay-at-home mom, but we could not live off of one teacher's income. Anybody that like right? Teachers don't go into teaching for that paycheck.
Of course.
And so I knew that God, had this path for me. And so I took my maternity leave, and during my maternity leave, I decided to do a basket party for this mom. And I was new to Wisconsin. All I did was teach. We had just had a baby, so I didn't have a lot of friends. We had just started attending our church and like slowly was making friends, but didn't really have a lot. So my basket party, the total sales for that basket party were $0. And that night, I think it was the same night. I was trying to think of this earlier.
Mhm.
That night at midnight, I decided in the shower that I was going to sign up and sell this. because obviously I was so good at doing it, right? Because my basket party had made $0.
Mhm.
Like who does that? Who decides that when they have not sold a thing that, oh, let me make this a career? Like nobody does that, but God knew, totally God knew. And so I signed up, and I think it was like the last day of the month, something or whatever. And we didn't have $99 in our bank account to join. And we don't use our credit card a lot, but it's there for emergency purposes. And so without even telling my husband, I used it for this emergency purpose. This was an emergency. I needed to sign up and sell this because I was so good at it, apparently. And so that's how I got started into it. And if you know me, I'm an Enneagram 8, which means like I am full-fledged. When I commit to something, I commit hard, and I'm going to be the best at it. I'm going to work my hardest. Failure is not an option. And I'm going to do every task and challenge put before me. And so that's kind of how I looked at my Scentsy journey in the beginning. I knew I needed to make $600 to stay at home. That was the amount of our rent at the time. And so we had done finances, and my husband said, okay, if this is what you're going to do, this is what you have, this is the amount you have to bring in. And so my first month, I knew that if I sold that $2,000, that was a guaranteed $600 paycheck, right? And so I did that. And I thought, this could be something. I don't think that I ever saw, like where we are sitting here today, I don't think I could have pictured this 12 years ago, but I knew that it was something that could help me live my dream of being a stay-at-home mom. And right from the get-go, I would say that I knew and realized that if I wanted to continue to see those paychecks grow, and, someone will say, what was your why for joining? Well, it was to stay at home, but it also was that the money aspect of how much can I make with Scentsy? How can I stay at home and have a family? And we didn't want just one kid. I actually, at that time, I wanted 6 kids. I ended up with 3. So, that's the math.
But I want 10. I have 1. So.
Right. Sometimes
I had unrealistic expectations of what parenthood would look
your
like.
dreams, and then the reality, you're like, oh, maybe not.
10% of that.
Right. So I knew that if I wanted to make these paychecks and be sustainable at home, that I needed to also recruit and grow my team. One of my forefront ideas in my mind of Scentsy and of this business is that if you want, you can make good money selling Scentsy. And obviously I had started doing that. I was good at that. But if you want to make great money, you have to grow your team and recruit. And from the get-go, that was always my jam. I knew that I had to grow my team, allow other people to be blessed by what I was seeing happening in our family's life with Scentsy. And from the get-go, I've always been a recruiter and wanting to share that opportunity, because when I share and I help others achieve that, then it also helps us too in return as well. So
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
How did you get from $0 in sales to $2,000? What was your tactic? Like, what did you do?
So I think first there was that, okay, I've got to do this because now staying at home relies on this. And that passion that I had and thinking outside the box. So I had this basket party in Wisconsin. I didn't really know anybody. And so I had to think to myself, where do I know people? And I went home and to Ohio, that's where I'm from. And my mom hosted my first launch party. And so I had to leave Wisconsin and go where I knew people first. And it's funny because now that I had done that, half of my team right now, I mean, maybe not half right, but in the beginning was all based in Ohio.
Mhm.
So here I also, that's, another thing is I didn't have my whole team in Wisconsin with me, and I was able to mentor and grow a team 2 states away as well. So I had to go where I knew people. And that's where, my mom invited all her friends. I invited all my high school friends, and those were the first people to join my team. And then we just grew from there. And then I realized, like, oh, I don't have any friends in Wisconsin. Like, I need to just develop my life here, become
Mhm.
who I need to be where I am. And so we dug more into church. I became a member of our local MOPS group, which is Mothers of Preschoolers. And it's so I love the story of that. When I joined MOPS, I
Mhm.
was the only person selling Scentsy.
Mhm.
I left MOPS 7 years later after having all three of my kids and going through MOPS. And there was a total of 15 consultants that had stemmed from me joining Scentsy,
Mhm.
whether that was they joined under me or they joined under someone that was under me too as well. And I love that story because you never know what you're going to get into, that God's going to bring people in your life that also need Scentsy too as well. And it was those stay-at-home moms again that they were like, we need some additional income, an extra, side hustle, and it
Yeah.
was Scentsy, and that bonded us together too.
Yeah. I totally love that. Yeah, I joined MOPS too. Um, Last year, the year before last, maybe. I don't know. And there was one other girl who sold, but she doesn't like sell.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, um, okay, so I love hearing that. Our stories kind of are similar because I did the same thing where I went to my parents and I said, okay, well, I'm just gonna invite people over. I think my parents were having like a card party or something. So I just brought my Scentsy out and I was like, okay, you guys can order. Um, and did you hit like the shooting star and sensational start?
Yeah. So I was trying to remember that too. So I hit Sensational Start level 2,
Mm.
I remember. And I became a director in 4 months.
Oh, wow.
So I remember hitting that super fast. And you had to do that by recruiting and growing your team.
Yeah.
But the person that my very first recruit, and this is how competitive I am, she really was a great recruiter as well and was growing her team. And I always like had to stay right above her,
Of
right?
course.
Like if she was doing this, I had to do this. And so
Mhm.
she pushed me to do
Yeah.
better. And I had to challenge myself to always be a step above, because then we could, go up the ladder together. And so that really pushed me up fast, and encouraged me too. But then I stayed at director for a year and a half, maybe a year and a half, and then made star director. And then I felt stuck
Mhm.
at star director. And I was there for 2.5 years, I think.
Mhm.
And I know that's not long compared to some other people, but I think no matter where you are in your Scentsy business, and I would even say this as a superstar director, sometimes you just feel stuck. Like, how do I move forward? How do I continue to grow? How do I continue to encourage my team to grow?
Mhm.
We all go through different things in life that are going to be thrown at us that influence our thinking as far as our business. And so I just remember feeling stuck. And then I went to boot camp at
Mhm.
home office, and something resonated with me. And that next month I promoted to SSD. And it was like a
Wow.
light bulb, very simple, just
Yeah.
went off. And I was like, oh,
So for
I get
those who don't know, our boot camp is when
it.
you promote to director. So you have several titles in between, but when you promote to director, we have what's called director boot camp. And unfortunately, it's not happening right now, but it will eventually. And um, you get to go to the home office in Idaho. You get to see how things are done. You get to see manufacturing and meet lots of home office staff, and it really connects you with with the home office, it helps you see the vision. It helps you understand who those people are. You get to feel loved on by the home office because they are very, I don't think people even realize until they meet them mostly how much, since he is very much dedicated to consultants. Yeah. And because they appreciate everything that consultants do, because they say all the time that they wouldn't have jobs if we didn't do what we do. And so I think that that's a really cool experience because
yeah,
you just can't get that experience anywhere else.
And
I
I
can
think
invite my team to my
same,
house, but that doesn't show them anything. But
yeah, it's the same that you're doing here, Sarah, that we got to go and hear Scency's story and take part in it and be engulfed around the story and around the things that happened. And once you do that, and it's so important because once you hear somebody's story, you feel that connection. And so once you go to Scency's home office, you feel that connection and you feel that authenticity about like, oh man, this was started by two moms and they were just like me, and look at the possibilities. It's amazing. So yeah, I think it's the same thing. Boot camp was all about the story. Like then you become a part of it too.
Yeah. So so tell me a little bit more, or talk to me a little bit more about events and how that changed your perspective or the course of your success in your business. What did that do for you?
Yeah. So, and I have to tell you that going to events, and you're meaning like Scency events, right?
Yes.
And that type of thing. Yeah. Is like the party aspect of my business. This is where all my friends are. This is where like my family is. And, we call our big convention every year Scency Family Reunion. And that to the core is like our family reunion. And it's like you are waving from your sisters from afar, it's so fun. But the other aspect too of events is, and again, back to my Enneagram 8, if you challenge me with something, I'm going to do it. And these incentive trips that Scency has presented every year and allowed opportunities to earn, I have never missed earning one since since my first year. I had a baby, another baby. Gosh, these babies. Right. After my two girls are 17 months apart. But it was the first incentive trip that I took my husband on. We went to Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic. And we were still poor. I mean, Scency was doing what it needed to do for me to be able to stay at home, but we were still living paycheck to paycheck and, counting our pennies and our dollars, going to the grocery store. And I was couponing a lot still. And I took my husband to Punta Cana, and I remember standing in the beach, and he said to me, okay, this is a real thing. And I want to be like, what do you think I've been doing? This is a legit business, man. But it took him to really see that and see that opportunity and experience a Scency incentive trip and to meet all the amazing people that were there. And it took that to where he was like, okay, we're going to do this. And I think as a married person, when you have your spouse on board, and you get that acceptance and acknowledgement from them, it means the world. Absolutely. And so from there, it was like, okay, we're going to do this. And so there was no more complaining of taking the boxes out and breaking them down when they came in, or there was no more like packing fundraiser packets and watching the kids, even when I went to events or to parties, because he understood that was his role in my business too. And so if I was going to earn him a place on these incentive trips every year, that was the role that he would play. Yeah. In that too. So that, the paycheck and staying at home with my kids. Now all my kids are in school. God bless that. Like the day that your kid goes to kindergarten, full day kindergarten, and you get to stay at home and sit in peace and quiet. Oh, I praise the Lord. But the paycheck and the incentive trips every year for a honeymoon for us have just been the icing on the cake. The friendships that Scentsy has brought into us. And that's why we look forward to events. That's why I love retreats, even planning retreats,
I know you do.
planning retreats, going to retreats, because that's where you connect with people. And this business is, yes, it's all about, what's that paycheck going to bring you? Do you need to, supply your habit of scents? But the people that Scentsy has brought into my life, you and I would have never met.
No, never. Yeah.
Never. And the opportunities that I've had to learn from other people and that have just become those core friendships. And now I long to go to events, to be surrounded by those people, to live in that atmosphere and learn with them. It's amazing. And it's been so hard because we haven't been able to, in the big aspect of things too. But, I feel like we're going to get back to that. And, we are doing our little retreats here and there. And it really has made us appreciate being together and the value that brings, because there's nothing like sitting on a beach or around a pool, no matter where you are, with a group of Scentsy consultants. And one thing can make that light bulb go in your head. And you're like, oh, I get it. And you go and you implement that when you get home in your business, and your business takes off. But it's something simple that it wasn't planned. It was definitely planned by God, but that you're just having those friendships, those normal conversations, and those people inspire you too.
Yeah.
And I've always made sure, and it's really been evident in my life too, this past year and a half, to surround myself with people that make more money than me and that are better at certain things than I am. We had a great speaker at SFR one time. I don't know who his name was. And that doesn't really matter, but he said, surround yourself with 5 people that you want to be like. And for the longest time, I felt like I was just sitting still in my business, just going through the motions. And when I began to surround myself with people that made more money, had bigger teams, didn't have to live paycheck to paycheck, worked their business in different ways than I did, I began to see different opportunities and think outside the box and grow my business in other ways that I was like, oh, I never thought of that, or, different points of view. And so I've always hold firm to surround yourself with those 5 people that you want to be like. How they always tell you, buy the worst house on the block, because then you'll have the most resale value for it. And I hope this sounds right, but be the worst consultant in your group. Because then you're constantly, being inspired and learning and growing. And even at the level that we are at, Sarah, right? We need to constantly be growing and evolving and changing. The world doesn't ever stop. We need to do that. We're getting in these new Gen Zs and these millennials, and they're like, oh my gosh, how do I deal with this? How do I run an Instagram story? And whatever. We just have to learn.
But how great is it though that, I'm at the very tip of the millennials. I'm the oldest, we're probably the oldest.
I am too, but don't tell anybody that.
Yeah. But that they get this idea of working from your own and doing everything you're on your own time, because life wasn't created for us to just go to work.
Yeah.
It was created for us to live a life that's fulfilled, that we, from what I believe, that we share God's word, that we love each other deeply. And what better way to do that than to just lead a bunch of people,
Yeah.
and to meet a bunch of people in the most peculiar way that you want to. I mean, when you're sharing, excuse me, when you share about, we wouldn't know each other. Well, how many customers do you have that you would have never ever known who have become friends, or people who you knew before, but because of Scentsy, you've been able to reconnect with people that you had a great relationship with or a friendship who you lost connection, and then since you brought you back together and you've been able to rebuild that relationship and talk constantly, and it's amazing, like, and my family always laughs at me because I have friends everywhere. We talk about going on vacation. I'm like, oh, I have a friend that lives there, or like just
Yep.
all the different places that you can go, and it's just, when I met Wendy Heath Newcast, she lives in California, and I'm obsessed with California, and that's all I could talk about is California. And I still haven't been in a while, but they've got a lot of rules. So,
Yep. Yep.
um, so I think that that's really great. So, what do you think, or what do you feel? This is a two-part question. What has been the thing that you feel most proud of, or you've had the most success in? And then what's the thing that you feel like you've really been challenged? And I don't want to say you failed, like your biggest failure, but like, what's the thing that's like really challenged you the most?
Okay. So my biggest accomplishment, and this is going to sound so silly to some people, I always dreamed to have a minivan.
Mm,
This is
okay.
just stick
Well,
with me.
you were gonna have 6 kids, so
Right. I was gonna have 6 kids, right?
I mean it makes sense.
Um, but if I had a minivan, I knew that the Lord had fulfilled me with those kids.
Mm-hmm,
I knew that we could afford it
mm-hmm,
and that we could afford to take them places in that minivan.
mm-hmm.
And I remember sitting at boot camp and telling the story, them asking, like, what's your goal? What's your biggest accomplishment? And I was like, I want to have a minivan.
Yeah,
And like these people are like,
looking
just
at you like,
whatever. But
yeah.
it stood for so much more,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so when I was able to get my minivan, it was like this was my dream.
I've made it.
I've
I've
made it. And there's other people that are like, a minivan, seriously, that's ridiculous. And since then I've
that
gotten rid
girl is real successful. She has a minivan. I'll never let that
right?
many
Who
people
says
say.
that? Nobody says that. But you know, I don't know that there is one certain thing. Obviously, paycheck goals
Oh,
have been huge,
mhm.
right? And just being able to love on people in ways that I there's no way I could have if I didn't have Scentsy in my life. Um, and to take my husband on these vacations, that there is nothing sweeter than traveling for free
Mhm.
with just, that man that you just love so much, and you don't have to worry about anything. And it's all paid for.
Yeah.
And so that has grown our marriage tremendously.
Mhm.
And so there have been so many blessings that Sensei has brought into our life. But the things that you don't expect are those opportunities that it's going to nurture and love our marriage. Um, and maybe this hasn't happened yet in fruition, but watching my oldest daughter do Scentsy with me is one of the highlights all the time. She could run my business. She is 12. Is that right? Oh my gosh, she's 12 or 11. I'm horrible at dates and years and whatever. So she's up there. She's in 6th grade now. We're in middle school. God bless middle school. Oh man. But she could run my business. And for her to see entrepreneurship at that age, and that she can be whatever she wants to be. If she wants to stay at home and do Scentsy, she's going to be darn successful at it. If she wants to go to college and get a master's, she's going to be great at it, right? But to see how Scentsy has molded my family and is a part of everything of my family is just the biggest blessing. It's not a burden to our family at all. It's, not something that mom has to go to work for. It's something that we do for fun. Logan learned his colors by organizing bars. I'd say, where's all the red bars? Get the red bars here. It's not one thing that happened in my life. I can look back and just look and feel complete joy in what Scentsy has brought. But my biggest struggle has been leadership, because I am an Enneagram 8, and I love to tell you to put your big girl panties on and just do your job. Not everybody can take that for what it's worth. And so I've had to learn, and I'm still learning. And then I will be the first to always say that leadership is sometimes so lonely, and it's hard. On the flip side, there's so many blessings to it, but I've been knocked down to my knees as a leader and felt inadequate to lead these women and men, and how to lead different personalities, how to lead different types of businesses. Not everyone's going to run their business like you run it or like I run it. And that's okay. Not everyone's going to have the same drive to get to the top. And that's okay. And so that's my biggest struggle, is learning different leadership habits that gently and lovingly influence others. Now, if you ever need a hard spanking or some tough love, I'm here for that. Right?
Know where to find it. If you want a big bear hug to be told that I love you and you're doing awesome and you're so great, you can come to me, because that's what I will give you.
And remember,
and some people need a spanking, and I'm not very good at spankings.
I surrounded myself with those people, right, that I wanted to be like. I surrounded myself with those people. I surrounded myself with Enneagram 7s who are the life of the party, who are, I just love it, because I want to be like that. I want to learn how to be those type of things. I surrounded myself with 6s that always want everyone to be happy, and they want to do the best by everybody. I surrounded myself with 2s that are helpers and encouragers. That's what my husband is. My husband's a 2. So I'm an 8. I can tell him what to do, and he does it, because that's his love language to me, to show that he loves me. And then, so anyway, that's my biggest struggle, is gently, compassionately encouraging. Other
people. I totally get that.
And it's hard. It's very hard to admit that, because there's some people that are so great at it. Right. And that's what everyone needs. Gosh, the world is telling you, be kind, just be kind. And we can all still have our voice, and we can all still have our opinions and our beliefs, but it's not all about like what I'm doing is right and what you're doing is wrong. Right. It's that coming together of, let's understand our differences. And there's so many differences in businesses, like how you run parties and how you even set up your office down to the nitty gritty. What's the best way? Maybe there's not a best way. Maybe it's what's best for you is not best for me. And that's okay. So I'm growing. It's so fun. It's not fun. It's humbling. But it's necessary.
I think that I just lost my train of thought. Oh, um, I think that what is really exciting, at least for me, what you talked about, you can sometimes feel stuck. But I think what's really exciting is that in the last few months, I've found this new passion, this new desire to grow and be better and figure out things that I don't know or haven't learned, or whatever it may be, and that comes from passion from other people. It comes from relationships that I've grown, but a lot of it is honestly that when I am sometimes in a funk or feeling down and I start pouring into my business a little bit, that something inside of me like wakes up and it fills my soul with goodness. And I think that that's where we know, like, God called you to do this, because in the Bible it says, like, that he will fulfill the desires of your heart. And but what that means sometimes is that, before we started this, I was sharing with Hannah that this is something that God had called me to do, to start this YouTube channel, and that I don't necessarily feel like I have time to do this YouTube channel, but there's so much about it that inspires me and brings me joy that every single interview I do, I leave with a sense of inspiration and excitement for what I can learn from other people. That I never have heard any of these people's stories. That I might know, that Hannah has 3 kids and that her husband's a teacher, but I don't know that, Hannah wanted a minivan. That was like such a big deal to her. And so I think it's really great to have those moments where you just feel like you're fulfilling a purpose. And I love it. So to end our call, I want you to share just one thing that you would say to somebody who is struggling, who maybe has lost a little bit of their passion. What's one thing that you would tell them? This a little piece of advice.
Yeah. Oh, it's happened to us so many times, hasn't it? Like it can happen daily of losing that. Oh, and we get so lost in the, I'm a mom, I'm a this, I'm a this, I'm a this, like, and you can just feel like you're drowning. When I feel that, I always think about my start, and I always go back to what had me join Scentsy in the first place. Where was that passion? What was I doing to have such a great start? And you just said it so clearly, of when you find joy in something, then it ignites you and it pushes you. And I think, and sometimes it's hard for people to realize this, if what you are doing is not bringing you joy, don't sit. Oh my gosh, Sarah, I have recently been so made aware of how we in the world sit and just go like that. Like we just like not give up, but we just allow everything to overcome us. And it's heavy. Oh my gosh, life is so hard right now. Life is hard for every single person, I think, in every different way. And I've just been so made aware that we can't sit in that place of wallow or sadness or stickiness. We have to constantly move. But you have to make the choice to move. You're going to have to make the choice. And this goes back to our conversation before we started, to get on your bike, right? I'm going to have to make the choice to go out and pursue what I want to do to make myself better, because just sitting and where I'm stuck in is not a good place. It's dark.
Yeah.
And so, gosh, if you're feeling stuck and you're not finding joy in it, number one, stop it. Stop what you're doing. Reevaluate where do you find joy? And that can be hard for some people because they can be leaving things that they feel like they have to be doing.
Yeah.
Or that the world or that society or that even their superstar director in Scentsy is telling them that they have to do. They could be seeing every other consultant doing this and going in this way. But if that's not bringing you joy, stop running that race and get on your race.
Yes.
Right. And move in that direction, because that's what finds you joy. And when you find that joy, and it's amazing things can happen, because that's what you were created to do. And that speaks to my heart too, because there's so many times that in our business, I have gone into a month and had 0 parties booked, no recruits on the table. And I think, is this the time? Is this the time that I'm done? And then I have to think like, no, this is what God wants me to do right now. This is what my family needs from me. And I have to pivot and switch my gears and think outside the box and focus on something different. And when I do that, I'm better for it. I'm stronger, and I've got new ideas. So all that to be said, don't sit.
Yes.
Move.
Well,
yeah.
Aren't you just a ball of sunshine?
Not really, because I'm the Enneagram. I'm the 8. See, I just told you, don't sit. You got to move.
Hey, but you said it nicely.
I hope so.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Your words of encouragement and inspiration, and for sharing your story with us. And I hope that you all could take a piece of Hannah's story and find yourself in it. And whether you're a consultant or just someone who was bored watching YouTube one day, that you will take those words and let them inspire you to do something great today. Have a good day. Bye, guys.
Thanks.